What's up, people? Sorry I didn't do the Lincoln Park video. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. So I'll kind of do what I did. Was it last Thursday, where I'll just do three. I'll do the Lincoln Park and Queensryche. I'll just do them both tomorrow, and then the Escape from New York. So I'll do that tomorrow. But right now, we'll have a bit of time. I am gonna be reviewing Men in Black 3. So this is my opinion, the final one. I don't acknowledge that shitty whatever one that came out in 2019 that doesn't exist. So, whatever. So, overall, I love this film. I think this is the second best film in the franchise after the first one. I really like how it ties everything together. I thought Josh Brolin did a brilliant job as young K. He actually felt like Tommy Lee Jones. Like, I was actually surprised how much he felt like he was actually K. He copied his mannerisms, and it was like to the point like this actually does feel like the same character. You might as well just digitally CGI young Tommy Lee Jones. It might as well because he felt like young K and it worked. And then obviously the ending where they tie everything together, which I'll get to, but it's just such an awesome film. I think the soundtrack minus like the main score, I think that part's weak. I would have rather them just did a re-release of the Will Smith's classic theme. I think changing it to Pitbull was just lame. That was just, it's the time. Pitbull was the big artist at this time. This was 2012 when this came out. Really good. And yeah, I saw this one in the theater. So this is the only one I had. No, I did see Men in Black 2 in the theater. I barely remember it, but I did see it in the theater. So, as usual, before I start the review, cheers. Sorry. Okay, man. So the movie opens up. We're introduced to Boris the Animal, who's the bad guy of the film. Who I actually thought of the bad guys, I would probably say he's the best. I think his whole story with Kay and the fact his story wasn't. Don't get me wrong. I was okay with the bad guy from the first one, and then the second one was whatever. But this one, it wasn't just they wanted this thing to just so they could do this. They actually had they had a motive. They wanted to go at Kay for locking him up on the moon in 2012. So he escapes with the help of his girlfriend, but ends up sacrificing her. And he vows to get revenge on Agent K. Then we're reintroduced to K and J. And I thought, for the little bit Tommy Lee Jones was in this movie as K, his dynamic still with Will Smith even after all those years. And I was thinking about this. I would have loved if Men in Black 3 came out sooner. But you gotta remember, this was when Will Smith, he probably wanted to do, because this was when he was doing stuff like I, Robot, I Am Legend, even like, you could throw in, as much as I don't watch this movie all the time, but Pursuit of Happiness, he was doing more stuff like that. Maybe he just felt like, I'm kind of past this role, and then I guess 2012 was the time he was open to do it, so, because I would have loved to have seen at least one more time Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith together in a whole movie. Not like, it is whatever though. I really do like Josh Brolin, so this isn't like a dig on him. It just I would have loved to have seen them together just one more time. But so they go to this restaurant, and this is where Boris is revealed to be alive. You have a bit of like that Men in Black hijinks kind of. Oh, also, O is now the boss. Is now the chief instead of um, Chief Zed, who R.I.P. Rip Thorne. I think he died in real life, but yeah, I think, and also in the story he died too, so that's why he's not in this film. And you gotta also keep in mind that they took so long. Cause, I mean, this is pretty much a 10-year gap. Yeah, because Men in Black 2 was 02, so this was 10 years. So Boris kills K off screen, goes back in time and kills him. So he goes back to the day he was captured and ends up killing him. So and the ArcNet, which is what's used to protect Earth, was never planted, so K never existed, but J knows. So I like this aspect about the film too, is the time travel. They don't overly complicate it. They don't give you this overly complicated explanation. It's very easy to follow. You know, they explain that Jay is the only one who knows because there's like a temporal reset. So basically, Jay has to now go back in time and stop Boris from killing K. So then he goes to the place where um, fucking Boris got the time machine. So they use it, and the way it's done is he's basically it's a time jump, so he has to jump off a building, and then yeah, he ends up in 1969. And I think another thing about this film, they did a really good job of making it feel like 1969. Like the setting, even like the way people talk, they even changed it a bit. It didn't sound like when we were, even though this film came out in 2012, they didn't make it sound like, oh, this is just 2012 dialogue in 1969. This actually feels like you're in the 60s, and you have a funny scene. Jay steals a car. Obviously, you know, remember this is still that post Jim Crow / civil rights era. So you have a joke where these cops kind of stop him, and he like neuralizes them. And the thing is, I'm happy that this film came out at that time because it was one quick joke and then they moved on. Because I feel like if this film, let's say, had come out like even like when that shitty Men in Black 2019, they would have beat that joke and it wouldn't have been a joke. It would have been a commentary on racism. Whereas at least in this, it was a joke. Even like the Detroit Darkies, that's what he said. I'm like, I don't even like. My God, he couldn't even make that joke today. He Jay confronts Boris, but then gets stopped by Agent K, played by Josh Brolin, who I'm gonna say again, he does such a good job at playing a young Agent K. Like he actually, I don't know if he just studied like old Tommy Lee Jones movies or even just studied like the first two Men in Black movies, and he just it was uncanny, like especially because I watched it earlier today, and I was just thinking, I'm like, my God, he really does feel like Agent K. Like he doesn't just feel like a guy trying to play Agent K. He actually feels like him, and him and Will had great chemistry, just like Tommy and him did. So it's like that's crazy, like because this could have went so bad if let's say that maybe they got another actor and the actor just did not pull off being a young K, this would have, because this could have been really bad. But no, this film is awesome. So Jay gets taken to an older MIB headquarters. This is where we meet young Agent O, who it's kind of implied, they don't flat out say it, but it's kind of implied that K and O kind of have a thing going on. So K is about to deneuralize Jay, but then Jay tells him not to, and basically convinces him not to. So now they kind of become partners and have to backtrack and try to stop Boris. And I like the jokes throughout the film. Like there's one part where they go to the factory, which is like this art thing with Andy Warhol, and it turns out Andy Warhol was an agent. I think I'm trying to remember who played Andy Warhol. I think it was Bill Hader. So I'm like, it's some guy from SNL. And I thought Bill Hader, who I've seen him in other stuff, he's a good comedy actor. And he played Andy Warhol. Him and Will kind of have a funny little back and forth with each other. And it was just kind of awesome, just funny, just because of the reference Andy Warhol, big figure in like the 1960s. Oh, he's part of Men in Black. And this is where we're introduced to Griffin, who has the ArcNet. He's like, I think he's some type of alien who he's a colonel in the future, and he basically can tell like the future and what's gonna happen. So Boris shows up, and then he has to go, and so Griffin tells him to meet them there, and then you have a kind of almost like a little callback to the first movie where Jay tries to have a shootout in the public. So then J and K end up. This is where I think they go to the coffee shop. You know, not the coffee shop, the pie shop. You have a funny scene between the two again. Like God, it's like I gotta say this film is awesome, and that on paper once again, because up until this point, you wouldn't think anybody else could be K, and that anybody else could have that same dynamic as K and J do, and it fucking worked. Josh Brolin killed it. He killed it. Like he really felt like K, and then his dynamic with Will is just perfect. It's almost like it was just if like let's say because now if they probably were to do this, they would probably de-age Tommy Lee Jones and try to make him look younger. It's almost that uncanny. I thought he did that much of a good job. So they meet Griffin at the baseball field, um, and this is where Griffin gives them the ArcNet, which is what's used to protect Earth. So, and this is where old Boris arrives. You have a kind of another funny scene between old Boris and young Boris, and then young Boris tries to kidnap Griffin, but Griffin manages to escape. And Will, this is where Will, because Will knows, or Agent J knows that if he goes on to Florida, because they're gonna go to the rocket, the space launch, which is crazy. Like how they tie everything, because this is me the day that we flew to the moon, So Jay doesn't want Kay to go because Jay knows Kay will die, but Kay basically says no, and they have like a kind of a dope scene where because Jay kind of lied to him and didn't tell him about no, you're gonna die, and just so. But Kay ends up going with them. They have a funny scene where they use jetpacks to get there, and this is where we meet General. I'm trying to find his name. So yeah, this is where we meet the Colonel, who basically Griffin basically convinces him to let him in. So they could plant the ArcNet. We have basically the final fight between K and I think it's K and young Boris, and then J and old Boris. So old Boris gets killed by falling off a scaffolding, and then seemingly young K shoots up. Seeming not young K. No, yeah, young K shoots and seemingly kills young Boris, and then plants the ArcNet on the rocket, and then it launches. And then Kay tries to recruit the general as like an agent, and then the agent says, "I'm good here," and then he's about to die, and then he gets saved because the colonel sacrifices himself. And this is where it's revealed that colonel was Jay's dad, and that just when I watched that the first time, I was like, "What the fuck?" And then this is where we meet little he was James here, but little James, and this is where that Kay knew him as a kid because his dad died. And he neuralizes him so he doesn't have to tell him about his dad, and then basically that is why Kay basically finds him years later, obviously in Men in Black 1, and makes him an agent because kind of like that, honestly, like not like respect for his father and that obligation. It's like, what the fuck? When I watched that the first time, I was just wow. That is though how you do a third in a trilogy. It needs to tie in like a circle where you tie it back to the first one, and I think they did it great. It wasn't ham-fisted either, because I think they could have did it where it was, I'm like, okay, that's a bit out there, but they did it in a way where it's believable and it does tie back. But so Kay goes back to 2012. You have like a nice little moment with Jay and Kay where Jay kind of tells him like, thank you for seeking me out, because but then he doesn't. They don't talk about it, but Kay knows. Sorry about that. Loud ass fucking helicopter. And then, yeah, you have one little fourth wall joke with Griffin, and like the film ends. Awesome film, I think. Second best in the franchise, and I find myself watching. I watch all three, but definitely I watch 1 and 3 more. Like sometimes I don't have to watch two. I, for the most part, will watch all three, but I mainly 1 and 3 just because 1 obviously was so good, but 3 was just how it ties everything back together. That ending, like, just is such an awesome way to end the franchise. And honestly, they really didn't need to do more. I mean, if they wanted to, the idea of a spin-off isn't inherently bad because Men in Black is the agency. So you could theoretically do a movie with 2 different agents, but fucking the chick from Valkyrie, I don't even remember her name. I can't even, Tessa Thompson, she's fucking trash. The only thing I think she was really decent in was Creed, and that's because that movie's that well. Those movies are well written, so it doesn't. And if anything, her role could easily just be some chick. She's just the girlfriend. But everything else I've seen her in, she's just kind of the same, and ugh. So, and then and Chris Hemsworth. This movie is just, the reason it doesn't work is because Men in Black 3. I think Men in Black 3 just ends it perfectly. You know, that Kay knew Jay as a kid because of what happened to his dad, that it ties everything together. I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of cool. The only other thing was, I would have maybe, if they wanted to do like several years later, one last movie, maybe you can have where maybe fully it can be Tommy Lee Jones and Will, I'd be open to that, but not. I'm not really open to a spin-off unless you get like 2 really good actors or something. But overall, Men in Black 3 is fucking awesome. Definitely, like, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I don't really have any criticisms. I think there's a bit of modern, like a little bit of that, not cringy humor, but like that overly jokey humor. But it works in Men in Black, because Men in Black's always kind of been a comedy. It was never like this super serious. So that's why I kind of can give it a pass. But yeah, overall, Men in Black 3 was awesome. He had awesome characters. I thought Griffin was a decent add-on. It wasn't just a retread of the first 2. Fucking Josh Brolin's work as fucking young Agent K. I think that doesn't get talked about enough. I know everybody knows him as Thanos, or even gets talked about more as Cable. But he was really good as young K. Like, I thought, like, it was crazy how much he did a really good job playing a young Tommy Lee Jones, and actually had a really good fucking chemistry with fucking Will Smith. So, especially for this being his first movie with him, it's crazy how much the dynamic really worked. And just, Men in Black 3 to me is the best one. Second best one. I think the first one's going to be the best, but this one is almost up there. This one's really good. So, yeah, I would give this one about a 9.5 out of 10. Tomorrow, I got 3 videos planned. Obviously, the 2 bands I love. One on Queensryche and then on Linkin Park. And then the main video will be me. I'm going to review. So even though I watched this movie recently, I'm going to rewatch it just for the review. Escape from New York. I cannot wait to talk about that. One of, probably my third favorite John Carpenter film, for sure. So that'll be tomorrow, but yeah. Other than that. Other than that, as usual, fuck Warner Brothers, fuck Disney, fuck Joe Biden and his administration, and fuck Kamala Harris too. I'll throw her in there. Fuck Simon Liu, and I hope Shang-Chi fails. The fact that dude really wants to act like he's the first Asian superhero, get out of here, dude. There's a thing called The Crow. Then you also have just Bruce Lee in general, like whatever. I might do a video on that maybe next week, not this week. I already got kind of my videos set this week, but next week. Fuck LaBitch James and fuck Kevin Smith. I'll talk to y'all later or tomorrow. Peace.